We're starting the chess set! Welcome back to the channel. So glad to have you. Pull up a chair, have a seat. Today, we're going to carve the pawn for our chess set. And it's going to be a little footman soldier here with a nice helmet, right? He's going to look fantastic. And we're going to carve him up today. And you're going to need to carve this particular piece 16 times to have enough pieces for the chess set. They're going to be 2 inches tall, 1 inch by 1 inch block, and yeah, we're going to use a detail knife. I'm going to show you how to do a little more detail with a gouge if you want to, and you can really get a lot of detail in on these if you want to. I'm going to try to make my versions simple though, and not go into too much detail so that we can make these as accessible as we possibly can, so as many people try to carve a chess set as we can get, and that's the goal here. So let's flip the camera around and we'll jump right into what the action is, all right? So we're going to carve our knights. We have got about 8 of them carved so far, and they are, I mean, this is just a lot of work to carve the 16 pieces you're going to need, the 16 pawns that you're going to need for your chess set. I am part of the way through it. I'm halfway through it technically, but there's a lot of work left to go. And these guys are looking great. If you haven't seen the intro video yet, please watch that, because it's going to go over finishes that we're going to be using, what the size we're going to be using for the whole chess set's going to be. This is just our episode on how to carve the pawn. I'm not going to have a finishing episode after this, because I'm not going to be finishing these guys until I get all 16 pawns completed. So if you're going to be carving this whole set, you're going to watch this video 16 times in a row, and God bless you for it. So you'll want to skip past this portion on the next 15 times you do this. But first off, always wear a carving glove. Carving gloves are very important. You should be wearing one. I normally suggest an A5 or better. I suggest A5 or better because I've cut myself through A3s, and I haven't cut myself through an A5. When it comes to knives, I'm going to be using this Badger State blade. I am not an affiliate of this company. However, I want to point out this one thing real fast. This knife is fantastic, absolutely stellar, and it's probably the best knife I could use for this particular style of carving. The blade here is a little bit thicker than you might normally find on, like let's say a Helvey knife. It's thinner than this. That is so suited to the style of carving that I'm doing here. What I call the narrowness or the shortness of the blade here allows you to do some swooping cuts. I really love this knife for small 1-inch figures. So if you don't have a knife and you're looking to get a detail knife, Badger State blade, 1.5 inch detail knife. It is 1.5 inch detail knife, absolutely stellar. Like I said, I'm not an affiliate. You'll have to Google them to find the website, but they are fantastic, and I highly suggest you get one. If you don't have a knife and you're just now getting into carving and you're wondering what knife you should get for this thing, this is the one I suggest, absolutely positively. Now, let's get into talking about what our measurements are going to be. So for this guy, we're going to have a sword and shield little knight, and he's going to be a pawn. He's going to be one of our footmen, right? And so we're going to have this shield here on this side. The shield here in this corner is 7/8 of an inch up from the bottom. And this side here is 1 inch up from the bottom. And then we draw a straight line between those 2 points. Now at the midpoint, 1/2 inch in, we're going to draw a straight line down to down here, which is 3/8 of an inch in. So we're going to connect those 2 points, 1/2 inch and 3/8. And then we're going to draw the swooping line, right like so, between the top of the shield and the bottom. I come down about 1/3 of the way before I start swooping in, and just kind of draw that smooth line. So you'll try to replicate that. It's hard to give measurements for the shape of the shield, but you've got the other points for measurements there. Over here, this arm, the hand right here, is about 1/2 inch up from the bottom. So 1/2 inch up right here. These points on the sword right here from this corner are 1/4 inch up and 1/4 inch over. From there, I draw a straight line between them and the hand to kind of connect it. And this arm here is 3/8 of an inch in width. It's the same width as this vacant space we're going to have here on the side of the head. So this is 3/8 of an inch in, and then 3/8 of an inch down to this corner right here. From here, we're going to draw a line down to the side of the arm here, and that is, let me double check, I believe it's 1/2 inch down. Yep, that's 1/2 inch down for the shoulder. So 3/8 of an inch in 3/8 inch down to that corner and a 1/2 inch down for that shoulder. And we're going to replicate those measurements over here. And those are the only measurements we're going to have for this guy. And we're going to wind up carving them off pretty quickly because we're not going to need them the whole time. But yeah, that's where we're at. This is a 2-inch tall piece of basswood, 1 inch by 1 inch, 2 inches tall. And let's go ahead and jump right into it. What we're going to do is we're going to start right here on the shoulder. I usually start on the left shoulder, but you can start on the right shoulder, doesn't matter. And we're going to go in, swooping in and out at the top. So I'm going to swoop in like that, right? And it creates just a small little chip. But we're just going to do that a bunch of times from the shoulder as we work in the side of the head and just take it in till we get the shape somewhat like so. And then we can start the other side and do the same thing. We're going to start at the shoulder and swoop in and up. And you don't get a whole lot off at a time. You just do this cut a whole lot of times in a row to whittle away at it, so to speak. And we just do like so. I need to take a little bit more off the bottom section of that, and that's okay. I can do that like so. And that's good. We got a good start on that guy. Now we got a nice hard line here in the back. You can see it's very thick. We don't need that much thickness. So we're going to start by taking off a lot of this on the back. And I'm just starting in the middle, swooping in and down. And I'm going to take off about 1/4 inch off the back of that carving. And I'm going to flip it around and I'm going to go the opposite direction. Now I could start here, but that's going to tear and split. So I'm not. I'm going to start here and only take a little bit off. And you see I still tore and split. Take a little bit less then, to where I can just cut it off smoothly rather than tearing. So I'm not taking off a whole lot and I'm working it down. I take a corner off and a corner off to smooth it out some, a little bit at a time. So I flattened that out pretty well. So we got that off the back. And that gets us a lot of wood gone. Now we're going to start setting in our shield. We're going to set in our sword and start kind of blocking things out. To do that along the top of the shield here, I'm going to do a stop cut, which is basically drawing with the knife. So I'm going to push the blade in right there and then just draw the blade across. I'm using my left thumb to push. My right hand is holding the blade and my left thumb is pushing, and I'm pulling the carving itself across the blade or across the wood. So watch this again, okay? The right hand is staying still. It's the left hand that's moving the carving. And right as I get close to the end, then I push it. I am not trying to do this quickly. I'm trying to control the knife blade the entire time so I don't injure myself. I'm going to show you again, and I'm going to go a little bit deeper as I do this. I'm going to push in. The left thumb is pushing, and I'm pulling with the right hand backwards with the carving. Actually, with the left hand backwards with the carving. The right hand is staying still. I'm just going to do this again real fast. And then one more time. Roll it on that bottom edge. I do it right across. You can see I kind of got it rounded a bit because I wasn't paying much attention because I was talking at the same time. And that's okay. We can fix that. Once we got that set in a little bit, deepen it up on this side here, we're just going to go ahead and carve down to it. I'm going to hold this piece in my left hand. The right hand is going to hold the knife, but I'm not going to be using the right hand to push the knife. It's the left thumb that's going to be doing the motion here, okay? And I'm going to hold it down here. You shouldn't do this. I'm holding it down here to prove to you what I'm doing. The left thumb is going to do all the work here. And it's pulling that knife blade down. The right hand is just holding the knife. And that is true for most of these cuts. I'm trying to be very controlled with cuts and controlled actions. That is how you can prevent injuries. And this series, this video series here is meant for someone who's very new, and that's why I'm making sure I point that out. So for those of you who've been on the channel for a while, forgive me for that, for pointing out the simple stuff, because we never know which video is someone's first video, and we want this to be as easy to follow as we can. So we got that stop cut set in, and I'm just taking out wood to carve in the top of our shield. Now, right when we get this point, I want to point something out. We still have, I should have from the beginning, a point here, okay? I'm going to draw a line from that point going straight to the back middle. I want to show you something here real fast, okay? We're going to do this, this knight here, and you're going to assume that this middle section of the helmet is the center of that carving, but it's actually not going to be. And so I don't want you mistaking that and getting off, because at this point from the top of that shield, we're going to carve off a section here. We got to come straight up from that shield. And so I'm going to carve off as I go up like so to bring that shield out and have a flat plane here. When I do that, it shifts the corner of that carving. You follow? Now we need to do the same thing and take out the same amount of wood on this side here to help center up that helmet again. So I'm going to try to take off the same amount, swooping in slightly as I try to bring that corner back over and line it up a bit better. Right, about like so. That's pretty close. I could do a little bit more to adjust like that. And that's pretty much on the money. So now we've got it swooping in a little bit here and swooping in a little bit there from that, and that's just fine, because that helmet needs to be set back a little bit from the front of the shield, otherwise it'll look off. And you can see right here it's set back. And you can also look at the overlay over here on the left. That is the carving that we're doing right now. That's the finished piece that we're working on here, right there. So easy to see what exactly we have going on. Now that I have that set in, we're going to need to adjust our shoulders. You can see this shoulder's gotten significantly smaller than that one. So we're going to adjust this by eyesight. I'm going to take off a little bit more. I'm not trying to go lower. I'm trying to go deeper into the helmet and come a little bit to the front. Follow? And now I'm going to look at this. I'm going to try to replicate this side over here. So go deeper into the helmet. I'm not going deeper down on the shoulder, deeper into the helmet itself. Try to bring that shoulder a bit more to the front. And that's looking a bit better. We've got more of a shoulder now on the right side and left side lined up. I can do a little bit more there to make it a little bit more even, and a little bit more right there. You follow? Always look at your carving, because not all of this can be followed step by step. And you want to be able to do what I'm doing, but you're looking to elicit the same shape and not necessarily the same actions. Depending on the wood grain, your wood is going to respond differently than mine does. So you may need to adjust how you're doing what you're doing to elicit the same cut or the same shape that I'm doing, but not doing it in the exact same way maybe. All right. Now for this back of this carving, we want to remove all of this here. Right here, what you see is this roughness there. Those are the saw marks in the carving, and those are going to take paint and stain differently, so we want to get those off of there. And to start with, I'm going to start bringing in from the shoulders here, the top of the head. So I'm going to just take a little chunk off there, get a little depth on that. You can see I started to bring that in right there. The same thing on this side from that shoulder, two, and then one in the middle. First off, see that back side's not quite lined up with that line right there. Do a little bit more there to get that point just on target with that line, and then the back of the head a little bit to bring the back of the head in some. Now we're going to try to just very carefully, thinly slice off those rough saw marks here on the back of the carving. Nice and gentle. Not putting too much pressure here, and controlling the knife the whole time, because we don't want to hurt ourselves. That's why we get that glove on our non-dominant hand. If you're left-handed, you'll be wearing your glove on your right hand and doing everything in reverse from me. And that's just fine. There's nothing wrong with you lefties. I'm not going to make fun of you. Alrighty, so now we've got that set in just a little bit. We can work on setting in the other side here. And what we're going to do to do that is we're going to do a stop cut along the inside of this arm. The point of our knife is going to go right where the hand meets the sword here, okay? So right there, straight up, and I'm just going to try to sink that tip in, and the back of the blade will be coming out somewhat. I'm going to have it like at that angle right there, and you can see how far back we go. And the back of that blade, as I pull it out, is where the top of the shoulder is going to be. So you can see exactly how wide that cut is, okay? I'm going to do the same thing along the sword here, right to that point in the hand. So this is going to be harder to sink in because we're going cross graining. So the grain direction goes up and down. There we will go between it. This is going to be harder to push in because the grain's going down. We're going to be going across the grain, so it's going to be harder to push it in. So I'm going to rock it in a little bit, just left to right, nice and easy. And I have made a mistake. Look at this. I am going off of that line. Oh dear, what do? I just fix it. I just adjust. So I get right on that line that I need to be on, and then I rock it in. Okay, rock that in all the way out to the other side, and you can see right there. Try to get that pushed in so you can see the depth I did. I like to show it by how deep I went. Okay, now that we got that set in, we can start trying to carve down here and cut that out. And you can see that little bit I got there is not going to matter too much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the tip of the blade right here at the top of where our arm ends. I'm going to try to follow that down and come right down to this corner. I'm going to try to go deep. I'm going to try to go not crazy deep, about like this angle right here as I come down there. And just come right down to that stop cut. Put that there. And now you can barely see that thin line. That'll be okay. When we wash this carving, the wood will expand a little bit and we'll heal that little slice there. It won't matter. So for the bottom of the hand here, we're going to put a stop cut in right here. I'm just going to rock that in. It's going cross grain, so it's a little bit harder, but we can do that and get a little bit of depth on there. Now we're going to do the same thing here for the bottom of the sword. And we're just going to make sure we're on our line and don't make that mistake I just made again. And then we're going to rock that in. Oh, I'm off a little bit. And rock that in. I make more mistakes when I talk about a carving because I'm concerned with what do I say and how do I say it versus making the cuts. And so I can make more mistakes when I'm trying to do that sometimes. So I apologize. I'm just cutting up and in and just cutting down to all those. It might be easier for you to start up here and to get some depth to it, like so. Those swooping cuts up and in, and then stop cut those out. You're looking for about, what, 1/4 inch of depth right there. And then you don't need that corner. You can just lop that off. For this side right here, you can then come in from this corner, carve up to it to kind of flatten this plane out in here, and then carve that out. And we've got that knife or that sword starting to be formed pretty well and looking pretty good. Now let's start setting in the rest of the shield. Excuse me. So we're going to draw this in using the knife kind of like a pencil. And to do that, I'm going to set the carving down on the craft mat so I can control the knife blade a little bit better. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the knife in here, and I'm wearing a carving glove, so I'm not worried about this, but be mindful of where your finger is. You might want to hold the carving up here and then draw, rotating the carving if you need to, and hold the knife in place, or use the knife and draw with it and move the knife too. It's up to you what you want to do. Just carve that line in like so, being slow. Slow and steady, it allows you to do it precisely. If you do it too quickly, you might make a mistake. So don't be too quick. You're not trying to be quick. You don't need to be quick. And we'll just carve this one too. On down to that point. Okay? So we get that pretty darn close. Now what we're going to do is we're going to carve right here from that point there. I'm going to do a little line so you can see. That line right there, I'm going to carve up to that shield, right like so. Okay? And then a little bit higher and pop it out. Why did I start right here? Because I want that tip of that sword to be there, and I want to put a stop cut right about here for that sword, because I don't want to lose that tip there. I'm going to very gently carve up to that now. Okay? Got a little tip of that sword just barely sticking out there. I want to make that a little bit larger, and we're going to do that as we go. Not right yet, but as we go. Now right here in this corner here, I go just barely underneath that corner lip and just push the knife in. Try to pop that out a little bit. Do the same thing here. And we're going to try to create some depth around this shield as we go. So for the top of that shield, I'm going to push it harder. Now that we got a line in here, I'm going to try to draw that line again and just put a little depth on it. And it's going to be easier to follow because we already have that line in there. So I'm going to trace it out a few times to put some depth to it. And then I'm just going to carve right like so to carve that out. And there is good little depth to our shield. Let's do that again. A little bit deeper. Like so. Look at that. We're starting to get a shield out of that, huh? And we can do it a little bit more down here if we want to. Stop, cut that. Like that. And we do the same thing over here as well. add a little more definition in there. Let's redo that line once or twice. And again, like so. And we'll turn this around and we'll carve to it up here as well. You'll see I'm kind of curving in with that to get that right there. I can do that kind of a cut because of how narrow or short that knife blade is. It allows you to do more turns, it allows you to do more sweeps, it allows you to curve the blade in ways you wouldn't be able to do with a thicker rough out knife. This rough out knife, being how tall it is, it can't pivot through the wood the way that this detail knife can. It's more dexterous, it's more nimble, and it allows you to do more. So on a smaller carving like this knife, having a smaller profile, is able to get into, let's say, between these two parts right here. Whereas this big rough out knife can't get in there as effectively. And it would be much more difficult for me to carve this with a huge knife. So having a smaller knife like this allows me to do things I wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And that is just fantastic. And it makes this easier on me. So if you can get a good detail knife, again, I'm going to say it, go ahead and do that, because having an easier hobby is absolutely stellar. You're wondering too what I got on my thumb here and here. It's just that self-stick wrap that athletes use. I like to have the extra cushion on that thumb because I'm constantly pushing the blade here, and that's usually where I wind up hitting on my finger as I'm carving, and so I have that there as well to protect the glove, because as you can see, my glove's starting to get worn out. This is an older glove. This isn't an A5. I suggest an A5. I'm just using this one up because I have it on hand and I wear out gloves fast. I'm carving a lot more frequently than most folks are. So, alrighty, we've got most of this carved in. I'm just gonna put a little more depth on this guy right there for mine. I can see that the shield isn't even all the way around for the depth. We want that depth, that shield, to be the same depth all the way around so that it looks even. And that's looking pretty good. Now, what I'm going to do here is we want to pop that shield out from the chest a little bit and bring the chest in. So to do that, we're going to be very gentle here. But right at the base of the shield, I'm going to start to draw a line. I'm not pushing hard here. I'm just pushing in a little bit to start a cut, because the thickness of the blade will push that wood enough to break it out. I don't want to break it out. Then I'm going to carve down, following that line that's put in to there, and then chip that out. Okay, you can start to see I'm starting to open that up a little bit. So I'm going to show you again, because we're going to do the same thing a few times. I'm going to just draw a line underneath the thickness of that shield, coming up like so. Now we can do the same thing along the edge of that shield. I'm going to put a stop cut right here and work that in. Now we got that triangle started to develop. I'm going to put the tip of the blade here and just carve right down into there, like so. Let me chip that out. Redo that stop cuts as you need to, so you get all that excess out of there. And we got that started to form. Now you can see I've got a little bit extra wood right here. I carve in like so, and then carve down to that shield, down to that shield, and that has started to pop out that front edge of that shield just a bit to give us a little bit more dimension to our carving. I love having a stiff bristled brush nearby to get rid of all those fuzzies when you're carving. Just to hit it with that brush real quick really gets all that stuff out of your way and allows you to see where you're at. So we're making great progress so far. It's really become much more three-dimensional than it might otherwise have been, and it's looking fantastic. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and take off all the saw marks here and here. The only saw marks we have left are the bottom of the hand, the sword, and the shield. So I'm going to be very gentle here. I'm not going to take off much wood at all. I'm looking just to scrape all of that off, and that's going to remove our lines, which we don't need anymore. Like so. And the same thing for the bottom of the hand here. And for the shield, or for the sword, I mean. Just gently get all that off. A little bit more right there. A little bit more. Okay. And there we go. So that's much better, done much better, much happier. Now for this guy, this arm is coming all the way down and holding on to the shield. And this arm over here is kind of non-existent right now. We want it to bend at the elbow because he's holding the shield. So the arm is going to be coming down here and then behind the shield. So right at the elbow, we need to figure out where the elbow is. And so right about midway on that arm, because the shoulder's here, the arm's here, about midway down, follow that across, that's where our elbow is going to be. Right there, it's just barely under the top of the shield. So that's where our elbow is. So to put this elbow in, I'm just going to do a stop cut right there. And I'm just going to carve up to it, like so. Now I need to put a stop cut behind the shield, and then right there, and pop that out. So we started to form that. Now I'm going to do a pairing cut. I'm going to put my right thumb on the carving here, and I'm going to carve like so. The right thumb is going to push the carving, and the hand is going to clench. See how far away the blade is from the thumb? That's what's happening here. I'm not in danger of cutting the thumb. This is a hard cut. It's not a hard cut. It is a confusing cut because people think they're going to cut their thumb. If you're going to cut your thumb, you're doing it wrong. You're not bringing the knife to your thumb. You're bringing the knife to the palm, like so. Palm it, palm it, palm it, palm it, like that, okay? But I'm going to do it with my thumb closer like this, right here, as I start to carve this stuff off. Now, because I'm right-handed, this is the easiest way for me to carve in this area right here. If you're left-handed, you might do this cut differently. You're trying to elicit the same shape. You don't have to do it the same manner that I do. You just need to get the same shape that I get. That's all you're looking to do. And discovering how to do that on your own, in your own way, that is going to lead you to more success than simply following me cut for cut. There we go. We got good progress there. Now, if you've got a V tool, you could try to carve out a channel right here, the back of the arm, or right here for the back of that arm, and that would work out just fine. We don't have a V tool, and I'll try to make this as simple as possible, so I'm going to show you how to do it with a knife. So to start with, I just drew that line about where the same spot is on this side, all the way up about the same point. I'm just going to carve straight in, and that line comes back a little bit further in the back, and that's fine. I carve it from the other angle, okay? I'm going to show you that again. I carve in about a 45-degree angle on one side, down, and then a 45-degree angle on the other side, and down, and then chip out that bottom piece. And that creates just a little bit of an indentation, a little bit of an illusion. Now we're going to carve down from there and try to flatten that out on that hard corner here. To separate out that arm from the body. Like that. Now the same thing here, and you can do this however you want to. You can carve from this direction here and go at a 45-degree angle in to the bottom of that elbow, and then do the same thing from the other side, 45-degree angle in to the bottom of that elbow, and then cut that out. From there, I would try to flatten out this side of it to open up that elbow. So it looks like the arm comes into there. There we are. So we separated that elbow out a little bit. I can soften that back corner of the elbow, like so. All right, we've got good progress going. We've got that elbow started to form. We don't need this really hard edge on that shoulder. The same thing for this side here. Those edges are a little bit too hard and they look misleading. So for this fella, right from where that elbow is, going straight across, that's where we're going to put our little belt, okay? Now, I'm going to go for not a very detailed belt here. You can see some of the carvings I have are getting really detailed in belt. We're just going to look for an indentation. Now, try and make this easy so that anyone can do it. You can make this guy as detailed as you want to, but for us, we're just looking to create a little valley there around the back. So I'm going to start on the right arm here, and I'm going to carve from the crook of the arm, from the armpit, down to where that is right there, that line, and I'm going to go the same distance from the hand right up in. Okay, that creates a nice deep V. I'm going to do the same thing here all the way around. And if I need to elongate it to fix it, I will. Do the same thing from here. And then up underneath that elbow and stop cut there. Okay, now we've got this set in. It looks rough and it looks terrible. That's because these lines here are too hard. So we're going to soften those. We're going to soften that angle up to the waistline as we come up here by carving off more. Make it like, rather than a steep hill, make it a slow slope is the way to put it. Maybe that might be easily understood. I'm just chipping away all of the fluff, all of the excess wood that hangs up in there until I get to that point. Now you can see the back kind of curves in. It makes him look more athletic right there. It makes him look more more fit, and it comes out from that waistline down as well. So it looks a little bit better. Okay. If it looks a little bit too much in the bottom here, you can kind of come in, take a little bit off that backside if you need to, make it look a little bit smoother. However you need to do it, whatever you think looks best. You are the only one looking at your carving. I'm not there, so I can't determine where you need to make your next cuts at. You'll need to be able to adapt and decide that yourself. There we go. So, good progress on the backside for where our waistline is going to be. The other thing about that waistline is going to continue along the front too. And so it continues right through here. Okay? That's a hard spot to get in there with, which is why it's a good thing that we've got a detail knife that can do that. I wouldn't be able to do this cut nearly as easily with a larger knife. And again, that's why this thin blade here is coming in so handy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same type of cut that I did in the back side, just on the front side. And we're going to elongate it as necessary. And the same thing here. Being careful not to catch the back side here with our blade. Okay. That has a good start to it. So what we want to do next, let's sort of set in that helmet next. So what we're going to do to set in that helmet is I'm going to just draw a silly line here that you don't need. You don't need this line. It's about this angle right here. And about the same. I find drawing lines allows me to look at both sides and see, are those even? That one's not. If I did it with a knife, I might make a mistake and not get it as even as I want to. That looks much better right there. So that's why you would think about drawing a line right here. So I'm going to come in at a 45-degree angle down and a 45-degree angle up from this flat plane here, okay? So a 45-degree angle up to that, rock it in a little bit, and down to it. And recut it to chop that stuff out, right, like so. And we're going to deepen this as we go, but we just want to get that cut set into place first. And then same thing for the other side. Cut and then recut to help set that in, okay? So we started to form that. You can see that face comes out too far, and that's quite okay because we're just going to carve the front of that off a little bit at a time, like so, to bring that in. And that looks a lot better for the depth there, doesn't it? And that's all right. Now we want to carve the rest of this head in all the way around. Right here on the shoulder, I'm going to carve in and then stop cut down. Be very careful here because it's easy to carve in and chip out too much if you don't have that stop cut in and chip the shoulder out and wind up hurting your carving and then having to redo things. So Make sure you stop cutting and then cutting to your stop cut to get what it is that you're looking for out of there. And we're going to do the same thing as we carve around here, the back side. You might want to slope it down a little bit as you come down the back. It looks more natural if it slopes out a little bit, but not too much. Simple little cuts. These are little V cuts and stop cuts mixed to create that little bit of an effect. Now you can see the back's right here. That back is a bit too high and bulbous. So we're going to fix that real fast. We're going to carve kind of up to it. And just like a hill, we're going to make the slope of that hill a little bit more shallow. And then stop cut underneath there. And that looks a bit better. You see, having this back middle part out here a little bit, bringing that angle up to there and then down to the waist, gives him more of an athletic figure. Just like we're doing here with the chest being more pronounced and coming down to the waist, it gives him more of an athletic figure. Now, we got a little bit further out than we need to here. So we can carve that in a little bit here. Yeah, it's looking a little bit better. Still a little bit too sharp right there. But that's looking better, isn't it? So you see what I'm going for. You see what I'm looking at, what I'm doing here. Let's increase that angle right there a little bit. That's looking much better. I like that. Okay. We're making good progress there. That corner right here is way too hard. Way too hard of an angle there. Alrighty, now the sides of the helmet aren't perfect here. I'm going to take off some of these hard edges here as well. And then that helmet is a little bit too straight in the back. I want to bring that in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a nice shear angle here in the back on each side, and then one up the middle to bring it into that angle. I like that angle a whole lot better. And if I need to recut a little bit on the back side of the helmet to set that in a bit better, I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Now I'm going to also round off the top of this helmet a little bit. And then I'm going to do a paring cut to take all of those saw marks off the top here. This is where you find out exactly how sharp your knife is, to see whether or not you can get all that off there. A sharp knife isn't going to have as much problem. A dull knife is going to do a lot of tearing. You can see I'm rotating the carving as I go to make it easier to get it all off there. And you're going to see a little bit of tearing around those edges as you go. That's okay. You can clean it up like that. Just to get it just right. And then we've got those done. So I'm going to round off the edges a bit on that helmet. Like that. That's looking all right. It's a very short, squat helmet, and I don't mind that. I don't mind that a bit. Now, for this helmet, to shape the visor, I wanted to go with something that was simple and not too complex. So you can see this guy here. It's actually a couple of different planes. So I'm going to show you how we did that real fast, okay? We got a flat plane in the front here, and then a flat plane here and here. So we've got 3 planes for the front of the helmet right now. On this flat plane here, right there in the middle, what we're going to do is, I'll draw it on one side here so you can see. We're going to cut here a stop cut, and then a stop cut like this, and create an indentation right there. So what I'm going to do is coming in straight at the carving. I'll put that point of the knife right there in that top corner, right in the top corner where we're going to go, and I'm just going to push a little depth in there, and you can see how deep I got, okay? Take a look at that indentation. You can see right there. I'm going to do the same thing from this other direction, angle down just slightly, but still coming in straight on that plane, and I'm going to push that in like so, getting a little bit of depth. So you can see how far back it went. Now I want to very thinly carve this out from here to here and up into that corner, taking out just a thin, small plane like that. That creates the first plane here, okay? Now we're going to do the same thing and replicate this on the other side. Try to keep that point at the same height. You can draw it on here. It's going to be easier on you if you do. will keep you from making mistakes. I'm going to do it freehand because I can. So same thing on the other side, right to there, and push that in. And then I'm going to carve up to it, trying to be gentle, and trying to just get what we need off. So we got those two planes there now. Fix this one up a little bit there. Okay, now we're going to put in some shadow for where the eye slits will go. So I'm going to do a good stop cut right here along the top, and a good stop cut right here along the inside, and then barely a 1/16 of an inch down, I go right here in a very sharp shear angle, carve up and in, creating that secondary plane right there. You see that? I'm going to show you again over here. I'll flip this carving upside down because I'm right-handed. Do a stop cut along the top of that. Do a stop cut along the inside of that nose plane or whatever that thing is. And then right here, like a 1/16 of an inch down, I'm going to carve in real sharp. Most of the tip, I'm going to have it come out slightly over here on the side. So you can see it's not as deep over here as it is inside, okay? Kind of angled in like this right here as I come up and in. So on this side here, I'm going to be angled kind of like so, as I come in, like that right there. So same thing here, about a 1/16 of an inch down, down and in. I'm just down and in, down and in. Nice and simple, just to provide a little bit of shadow there. If it's not deep enough, make it a little bit deeper, like so. And that provides enough of a shadow right there. Now I'm going to take the hard edge off of the inside of that. Stop cut it. Hard edge off of there. And stop cut it. The same thing for the brow ridge on both sides. And then right here in that front crown, take those hard edges off as well. And that is a very simple visor for our helmet on him. It's not complicated. It's nothing crazy. It's just still a pretty simple carving. We're not doing anything hard here. It's just that you're going to do it 15 more times after this to get your full chest set. And you can do that. I believe in you. I know that you've got this. Now, to do the rest of this guy here, what we want to do is we want to draw in some pauldrons. So right from about the middle of the chin, or right here underneath that corner of the eye right there, we're going to draw down at an angle. And then we're going to draw over here, like so. We're going to follow that right around to the top of that armpit, a little bit past it, and then we're going to draw down at an angle again, right there, okay? And that's going to be our pauldrons. Same thing on the other side, to the top of that armpit. And start bringing it around, right here. We're going to try to come up at the same spot underneath that eye, like that. And that's going to create a very interesting effect for our pauldrons. Now we're going to come in on this plane, straight in that corner right there, and deep, but not too deep, because we want the bottom of that blade to come right out the bottom of the pauldrons. You see where that line for the bottom of the pauldrons is? That's that blade's coming out at. And then from there, we're going to carve from those pauldrons at a good steep angle here. So I'm coming out just to do a cut along those pauldrons to set those in. Do it a little bit better. There we go. So you can see the kind of the angle I got that just sets those pauldrons in so they catch the light a little bit. Now right here is again where this thin blade comes into play. I'm going to carve a bit of a stop cut right there. I wouldn't be able to get in there with this thick of a blade very easily. I'd have to barely use the tip of it. You can do that, but it might be a little bit harder on you. Make it easier on yourself and get a good detail knife if you don't have one. Because this is a small carving and this is detail work. This is absolutely detail work. So we've got that carved in along the front there. Let's continue that around. So right here on the side, up to that pauldron. Right here behind the arm, up to that pauldron. And again, we're doing the same kind of cut we did in the front, coming in flat in that plane, deeper at the top to the bottom, and then we're going to carve right up to there and chip that out. We can refinish right there if you want to. Take off that hard edge on the back And we got that pauldron started to be shaped in. It's really looking like a knight now. Doesn't he look a lot more ferocious? Look at him. He's looking fantastic. Same thing on the other side. Get that cut in. Make sure the bottom of that blade comes out right at the bottom of that pauldron. And then we're going to chip that out right there. We're going to follow that line around from the top of the armpit right there. If the armpit doesn't go all the way up, it's a good time to go ahead and fix it. And put it all the way up to that pauldron, like so. And we're going to continue that all the way around the carving. And then put that cut in here. And then carve that out to the helmet. And make sure we set that in and have that armpit coming all the way up underneath that pauldron as well, if it doesn't. Okay, now our backside is pretty much done. I could take this knife and I could clean up a little bit where those pencil marks are. Take those pencil marks off. But outside of that, back of the carving is completed. So on the front here, we don't have a lot to do. We got to put some details in the shield. We got to do the sword and the hand. So nothing complicated. For the hand, we're going to have this at a bit of an angle. So from that corner where the sword and the hand meet, right above that, we're going to draw down at an angle, like so. And then it's just going to continue straight around. So it's going to be straight in the back and then up at an angle right there. And then we're going to do a stop cut right here. And we're going to carve up to that stop cut, because this armor is above the hand. The hand goes up into the armor, right? So we want to carve up to that stop cut. So we create the illusion that the hand is coming out of the armor. All the way around. Like so. Take off that hard edge right there. Now the bottom of the hand here, that's really rough and hard. We don't need all of that to be so hard. We can just kind of curve that out. Right where the sword reaches the hand, right here, we're going to do a stop cut right there as well. And the hand is holding onto the sword, so we carve up from the sword into the hand and stop on the hand, because the hand is holding the sword. Like so. Continue that cut around the top section right there as well. Like that. I did right there. Same thing on the bottom if it needs it. If it needs to be set in. Like that. Now, we need to angle this. So what we're going to do is we're going to angle a cutting edge here, 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 and here. To do that, we're going to be very careful and try to just put an angle on the carving all the way through that section right there. Okay? Same thing for the other side. Be careful. The grain direction is running vertical. If you feel it start tearing, then you need to change your tack, change your direction. Okay? Do one right like that. And right like so. Now we got a bit of an angle on there. Okay? A little bit more through there, I think. And that is all you really have to have. If you want to, and you want to add a little bit more detail to those, what you can do is you can take a number 9, a number 8, a number 11, something with a bit of a gouge right there, and just carve a little chamfer up here. And that'll put a little bit of detail on there. You don't have to do that. It's just if you want to add that chamfer, you can, which will pop that sword out a little bit more. Just get a little bit more definition to it. So that's just an option if I was going to go for something like that. Alrighty, what should we do next? We need to do a little bit of detail on our shield. And you can see the details I've done on these ones. I don't want anything crazy. I want something fantasy themed, but like I don't want to do a crazy detailed design. So it's just kind of like like the flux capacitor from Back to the Future, because why not have a flux capacitor on our shield? If you're wondering what I was doing there, what I was going for, it's just a flux capacitor. 1.21 gigawatts. just like so. It's a really easy form to create though, right? It's just V cuts here and there. 3 V cuts, nothing complicated. So we're gonna do stop cuts here actually, like so, and like so. We do the same thing here, and you don't have to draw, you can just push in, put the tip of your blade at the point in the middle for each one. Same thing here, and then here. And then start at one corner, work your way up and in. Start at one corner, work your way up and in. You need a stop cut to break something free, and stop cut it, break it free. Like so. Oh, that one doesn't want to come out, does it? Doesn't want to come out. Just fiddle with it. Recut your lines until you get to pop out. You clean something up, clean something up. Now it looks very rough. It looks terrible right now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a 45, those inside corners, and just make it look a little bit better. The difference between an exceptional carving and a good carving is time spent carving. These carvings that we're doing for this video, these look simple. They don't look crazy complex. If you want a crazy complex knight, spend an hour putting details into each one, and you will get a really complicated, wonderful, stunning looking knight that will just be absolutely amazing and wonderful, and it'll blow people away. But you're going to carve 16 of these guys. So if you want to do that, you are more than welcome to. I am not trying to make them complicated because I'd like to have this thing finished this century. So the goal here is not to go for crazy complicated. It's to show you some simple little knights that are not too complicated that you can do relatively easily and get started on your own fantasy themed chess set. Now, I believe that we've got him all finished up. I don't see anything else left to do. You could spend a little time here trying to get more of this out here behind the sword. You could just try to rock that in and cut out to define that more. That's if that bothers you. If it doesn't, just leave it. That's again where I said it's a time invested, right? How detailed do you want this chess set to be? Do you want it to be crazy detailed? If you do, take your time and just add a lot of details to this. Having a shorter detail knife here really allows me to get in there. It's more narrow, so I can really start to carve out that section between the shield and the sword far more easily than I could with some other knife. So what else could you do? If I had all the time in the world, or if I had, like I could take one of my little dockyard tools, I could use a gouge and I could add some texture to this arm sleeve here and make it look like chainmail. Do the same thing here. Something we want to do is put that arm in right here, okay? We didn't separate that arm out, so let's do that real quick. Just a little stop cut right there to separate that arm between the shield and that. So that's one thing you can do for details. Put a little chainmail there. You could put some patterns along the hem of this battle dress there. You can put a cape on the back. You could do all kinds of things to separate these guys out and make them a little bit different from each other so that they're not all exactly the same. You could swap the shield from one side to the other, put the sword in the other hand. You could give some of them 2 swords rather than a shield. You could do an axe or a hammer rather than just a sword, and have your pawns have multiple things going on rather than just swords. The set that I'm going to do is going to be very simple, just like this, consistent, so that people can see exactly how to do it, and not have it be too daunting or look too daunting. I want it to look inviting and like, hey, I could carve that too. So I'm going to go ahead and wash this guy up under the sink in the water, and I'm going to do that for about 2 to 3 minutes with soap and water. Okay, I wash him up and just scrub him with a toothbrush, and it really makes him look fresh and clean. So I'll be right back in 3, 2, 1, And there he is. I use just the regular soap I have in the bathroom, just the pump foaming hand soap that I use. I mean, just whatever's in the bathroom and what I can grab. And then I soak him for 2-3 minutes and scrub him with a toothbrush. And it really heals. Remember that cut we had right along there? You can just faintly, kind of somewhat see it. It's gone now, okay? It heals the carving up a little bit, expands that wood, and things just connect back up. It takes care of those fuzzies and makes the carving look so much better just to spend a little time washing it up. And I mean, like, these guys here haven't been washed. You can see the deep color difference between ones that have been washed, ones that haven't. And all those little fuzzies like between the arms that you think, oh, do I really need to recut that? You might not need to recut it. After you wash it, you might get to see more clearly what your carving actually looks like versus what you think it looks like here. So I highly suggest for everyone, wash your carvings. Wash your carvings. When I take pictures and they look so good on Instagram, you think, why does Johnny's carvings look better than mine? I washed them. I washed them. That's what I did. And especially for pictures. I'm posing for pictures. I'm trying to make them look as good as I possibly can because I want people to be impressed. I want people to think Johnny's good at what he does, right? I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to get better. So yeah, I wash them. So wash your carvings. And yeah, that's where we're at. Turned out pretty good. Okay, so that's where we're at for our chess set. Thank you so much for sticking around at the end of the video. I really appreciate it. Head over to Instagram, give me a like and a follow over there. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Click one of the other links that'll be popping up after you see all this. And thank you so much for sticking around and watching the end of the video. If you like this shirt and you like that kind of thing, head over to the website and you can get some cool whittling vibe stuff or some cool wood carving apparel. And I really appreciate it. It'll help out the channel. And outside of that, I'll see you next time. We're carving a chess set, folks. I'm so excited. Have fun. Bye.